Imagine you're a hunter-gatherer, 10,000 years ago, and you just watched someone in your group die within days of touching a rotting carcass. You don't know what bacteria is, you don't know what a pathogen is, but something deep inside you screams that touching that thing again means death. You think hand washing is a modern invention, something we learned from doctors, from soap commercials, from hospital signs reminding you to scrub for 20 seconds. You think good hygiene is a product of science, something humans only figured out once we had microscopes to prove germs existed. Here's the thing, that's completely backwards. Let's talk about the behavioral immune system. In the early 2000s, psychologist Mark Schaller coined this term to describe something researchers had been circling around for decades. Long before humans understood germ theory, evolution had already built a psychological alarm system designed to make us avoid things that looked, smelled, or felt contaminated. Disgust wasn't a random emotion. It was a survival tool, engineered by natural selection. To keep our ancestors away from rotting meat, diseased individuals, and contaminated water, without ever needing to understand why those things were dangerous. Think about that for a second. You don't need a biology degree to feel your stomach turn at the smell of spoiled food. That reaction is older than language itself. So how did this ancient alarm system actually influence behavior? This is where it gets interesting. Let's talk about avoidance behavior in primates. Researchers studying wild chimpanzees, including work compiled by primatologists observing troops across Africa, have documented individuals actively avoiding group members showing visible signs of illness, skin lesions, or parasitic infection. This isn't taught behavior passed down through instruction. It's instinctive, appearing consistently across populations that never had contact with each other. Our primate ancestors were running a basic form of contamination, avoidance, millions of years before humans existed. And here's where the story turns into something else entirely. Because this instinct didn't just shape who our ancestors avoided, it shaped what they physically did with their own bodies. Let's talk about water and washing rituals. Archaeological evidence from multiple ancient civilizations shows deliberate, water-based cleansing rituals appearing far earlier than most people assume. At sites connected to the Indus Valley Civilization, dated to around 2500 BCE, archaeologists uncovered the Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro, a massive, carefully waterproofed public bathing structure built with baked brick and bitumen sealant. This wasn't just a pool, it was engineered infrastructure, built specifically to let large numbers of people cleanse themselves in a controlled water source. You'd think ancient civilizations built things like irrigation and granaries first, purely for food survival. Somehow, cleansing infrastructure was important enough to build at massive scale, thousands of years before anyone understood a single microorganism existed. Now, here's the detail that changes everything. Many of these ancient washing rituals weren't framed as hygiene at all. They were framed as purity, as spiritual cleanliness, as protection from something intangible and dangerous. Religious traditions across the ancient world, from ritual handwashing described in Jewish law, to purification rites in ancient Egyptian and Hindu practice, all converged on the same physical behavior. Wash before you eat. Wash before you pray. Wash after touching the dead body. Anthropologists studying the origin of these rituals argue that spiritual language was essentially a cultural wrapper around an instinct that already existed biologically. Ancient humans didn't need to understand bacteria to sense, correctly, that touching a corpse and then touching food was dangerous. They just explained that danger using the only framework available to them: spirits, impurity, sin. So what does that actually mean? It means thousands of years before soap, before germ theory, before a single scientist ever looked through a microscope, humans were already washing their hands at exactly the right moments to avoid disease, purely because an ancient, disgust-driven instinct told them to. Here's the plot twist that flips the whole story. In 1847, physician Ignaz Semmelweis, working in a Vienna hospital, discovered that doctors who washed their hands before delivering babies dramatically reduced maternal deaths from infection. It should have been an instant triumph. Instead, Semmelweis was mocked and dismissed by his own medical colleagues, who found the idea that invisible particles on their hands could kill patients to be absurd. He died in an asylum, largely unrecognized, years before germ theory was finally accepted by mainstream medicine. Think about that. An ancient religious ritual practiced instinctively for thousands of years turned out to be medically correct. And the moment science tried to explain why, rationally, with evidence, it was rejected by the very people who should have understood it first. Sometimes the old instinct got the right answer for the wrong stated reason, faster than science was willing to believe it. So here's the full picture. Millions of years ago, primates evolved a basic disgust response designed to steer them away from contamination and disease, long before anyone understood what a pathogen was. That instinct carried forward into early humans. shaping deliberate washing infrastructure like the Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro almost 4,500 years ago. Religious and spiritual traditions across completely disconnected cultures converged on the exact same washing behaviors, wrapping an ancient survival instinct in language about purity and sin. And when science finally caught up centuries later with Semmelweis proving the biological reason behind it all, the world initially refused to believe him. Washing your hands was never really about soap, science, or hospital signage. It's one of the oldest instincts your body has, dressed up in whatever explanation each era of humanity had available to make sense of it. Next time you wash your hands before a meal, you're not following a modern health guideline. You're obeying an alarm system that's been running inside your species since long before anyone could explain what it was protecting you from. That's the most human thing there is, sensing danger correctly, long before we ever had the words to explain why. Next time you catch yourself instinctively avoiding something that just feels wrong, trust that feeling a little more. Your ancestors were listening to it for a very good reason. Let me know in the comments which everyday habit you want traced back next. I might build the whole video around it.